ब्रह्माच्युत शंकर प्रभृतिभिः देवै सदा वन्दिता सा मा पातु सरस्वती भगवती निशेषजाड्यापः।
So, thank you, Ms. Divya. It's time to call our chief invitee of the day, Dr. Devahuti Brahmachari. She has been teaching in Department of Political Science at Janki Devi Memorial College, University of Delhi as an assistant professor. She has completed her doctoral research from Jawaharlal Nehru University Center for the Study of Law and Governance. Her research interests revolve around the issues of women's studies, child rights, cultural rights, governance, and administration. She has worked on ground with various prestigious institutions such as the former Planning Commission as well. Hanover University of Germany, Governance Knowledge Center, DARPG, Government of India. She has been awarded two national awards in 2019 as well, Virta Puruskar for contribution to nation building and Women's Achievers 2021 award. She has also published her research work in several national and international journals and presented at several conferences as a resource person. Being from a family of arts, she has trained in classical vocal music and classical Odissi dance as well. She did short-term training under the Shyamak Devar Institute of Performing Arts too. Her passion for the arts is also reflected in her research work, and her motto in life is believe you can and you are halfway there. And please guide us and give us the permission to start the program and give some initial remarks also.
Good evening, everybody, and I would like to extend my gratefulness, especially to Manish ji, and especially to this entire platform. When I had joined, I had said the same thing, and I attended one of the sessions earlier, and I think so. It's just I can use the word beyond excellence, because to have students to come up and present their views with such dedication, with such perseverance, it's excellent. Because I've attended few of the sessions, I was going through some of the recordings. So इतना अच्छा लग रहा था कि that students are coming up, and the range of topics is so diverse. Like the topic that we are going to touch upon today is flora and fauna, and for youngsters to come and touch up such issues and bring out their thinking caps and to discuss with everybody is just excellent. It is, as you rightly said, Ajay, it's the stepping stone towards the future building of research. So yes, all the very best. I've gone through the crisp notes sent for today's speaker, that is Ananya, and that's an excellent topic that she's touching upon. In fact, I think so it will be an eye opener for me as well, because I'm not so thorough with the historical part of it. So all the very best, and yes, I'm just waiting to hear and look at the presentation.
Thanks a lot, ma'am. And so now, just before calling to Miss Ananya, she is the center of attraction today and the main speaker. All right. So let me give you something, a glimpse, I would say. The topic, जो ये विषय, the topic that she is touching right now, ये बहुत ही महत्वपूर्ण and important है. Why I'm saying like this? Because she is not only going to touch the present. The main aspect of her talk is that the इतिहास, जो हमारा पर्यावरण का जो इतिहास है, मतलब ये तीनों डायमेंशंस कवर करने वाली हैं. इतिहास और जो प्रेजेंट है एज वेल एज द फ्यूचर, जो भविष्य है उसको भी. तो इट विल बी एन इंटरेस्टिंग टॉक टू लिसन टू हर. सो मिस अनन्या, नाउ आई वुड लाइक टू कॉल यू and please present your glistering talk before everybody.
Thank you so much. Just let me know if my screen is visible to everyone.
Yes, it is.
Okay. So good evening, everyone. One fine day, me and my 4-year-old cousin were just sitting in the lawn, and she was drawing that age-old environmental scenery with mountains, sun, clouds, rivers, trees, birds, and a small house. Me, being the elder one, wanted to give some inputs so that she thinks her sister is smart and all. So I said to this little girl that why don't you fill the clouds with color and make the river's water blue and trees a little more greener? What she replied still haunts me. So she turned towards me and said, Dee, I don't have that much brown color. Okay, so the moment of truth. Indian clouds, water, those trees have literally turned brown. It's no more that scenic blue and green visuals which we enjoyed during our childhood. The topic I chose today is not very unique in the sense that it has not been talked much about, but it is definitely of utmost importance in the present scenario. None of the daily news analysis is complete without mentioning about the sorry state of our environment and the detrimental anthropogenic activities which brought it to this situation. Still, we people choose to be unaware. The environmental issues in India becomes more serious every day, and she is turning into a bit of mess on this front. But with a serious lack of education and over 1 billion people, a majority of it in dire poverty, it's hardly surprising. The recent boom in industry is little or no environmental education, infrastructure nearly at tipping point, not to mention the huge deforestation that's going on. The fiasco is unavoidable. So today, in this context only, I will talk about the environmental scenario of India ranging from the late 19th century up until the 21st century. Like every other subset of history, environmental history is different things to different people. For me, environmental history is the history of relationship between human societies and the rest of nature on which they're dependent. This includes three chief areas of inquiry, which of course overlaps and have no firm boundaries. First is the study of material environmental history, the human involvement with forest and frog, with coal and cholera. Second is political and policy related environmental history. This concerns the history of self-conscious human efforts to regulate the relationship between society and nature. The third main form of environmental history is a subset of cultural and intellectual history. My best efforts during the entire talk would be to chronologically put forward the environmental scenario of India, encapsulating these three subsets. The subcontinent of India has historically played a vital role in the world and will increasingly do so in the future. It not only contains major fauna and flora biodiversity hotspots, but is also one of the regions among the world's most polluted and vulnerable to climate change. Over the 18th century, as Mughal imperial system fragmented, diverse competing regional rulers sought control over India's resources. Ultimately, the most successful of these rivals was, yes, you guessed that right, English East India Company, which gradually intensified globalization through more rapid and extensive movement of people, flora, fauna, minerals, and technologies to try to master the Indian environment. More than any previous state to that point, the British Raj imposed its authority over all of India using sciences and ideas that exploited, divided, but also unified the subcontinent. Over the early 19th century, East India subordinated every remaining Indian ruler. This brought the entire subcontinent under one sovereign rule, exceeding even the mighty Mauryan and the Mughal empires in extent and depth of governance. Forests have been cleared and animal species were hunted to extinction before also, but definitely not on this scale. The 1865 and 1878 Forest Acts and the 1873 Canal Act were landmark assertions of state power and ownership implemented through scientifically trained experts. British equipment and manpower losses during the 1857 fighting in North India and Nether Deccan added pressure on all government departments to increase revenue without provoking renewed resistance by increasing land tax rates or annexing new territories. Some canals and railways also justified their investment by promising to Raj to save the economic cost of moving troops and famine relief. Overall, the Raj deepens its effect on India's natural and human resources, expanding railways, forests, and canals simultaneously. A study by Manipal Academy of Higher Education, National Center for Biological Sciences, Bengaluru, and University of Leeds, United Kingdom, has thrown light on how biodiversity hotspots were destroyed by planting vast tracts of grasslands with trees for firewood and timber, putting over 150 species of flora and fauna in danger. Railway embankments often crossed and thus blocked ground and surface water flows, producing waterlogging and disease breeding grounds on the upstream side. Railroads also rapidly used up stocks of Indian hardwood trees, especially teak, sal, and deodar for slippers. Can you believe when I say that each kilometer of track initially used 1,000 slippers, which is equal to about 200 large trees? Much of more than 1 million tons of railway fuel burned annually was extracted from Indian forest, either as firewood or from forest located coal mines. All this caused major deforestation. The 1878 Forest Act expanded the 1865's Act of Definition of Forest Produce, and now they included valued animals and their parts, including skins, horns, and tusks. Poor fellow, even they couldn't be saved. During this period, some Indian elites also imposed their agendas onto Indian wildlife. For instance, from 1879 onwards, rulers of Junagadh on the Gujarat coast asserted control over Asiatic lions in the Gir forest. At the start of 20th century, many of the public works were expanding and incorporating technological advances. Nonetheless, the Raj had difficulty controlling the social and environmental consequences of these ambitious public work projects. Remember the third subset of environmental history I talked about? Yes, the cultural and intellectual one. Here it comes to the play. Many Indians living in Punjab's Canal colony protested the 1906 colonization bill that increased government intervention and water rates. Meanwhile, proliferating canals produced unexpected salinization, waterlogging, and increased diseases. Forest departments also extended their authority, increasing the level of conflict with local communities. In August 1947, the departing British Raj inscribed man-made boundaries over South Asia's ecosystem. For instance, the Indus, the Ganges, and the Brahmaputra river system now crossed international borders which were not international till the midnight of 15th August. During the post-independence decades, each new government and emerging international bodies generated vast amount of information and numerous policies, programs, and reports. As the academic discipline of environmental history emerged during this period, scholars have used these diverse sources in different combinations to create nation-based historiographies. The pioneering reportage of Anil Agarwal, Daryl D. Monte, Kalpana Sharma, Usha Rai, Nagesh Hegde, and others played a critical role in making the citizenry more aware of these problems. Scientists such as Madhav Gadwil and A.K.N. Reddy began working out sustainable patterns of forest and energy use. For many rural and urban people, the post-independence state remained a major source of threat to the local environment. The first Prime Minister of Azad Bharat, Jawaharlal Nehru, was completely fascinated by technologies and was thoroughly enchanted by dam, and he called them temples of modern India. In this context, he inaugurated a slew of projects in the view of economic modernization of India, hoping that the new projects would be a solvent to dissolve the schisms of caste and religion, community and region. Over here, let me give you a picture of how the Indian Journal of Power and River Valley Development captured the Bhakra Nangal project through my words. So there were 4 pictures in this journal. The first picture showed a wooded site of Bhakra Nangal before the work began. Yes, the river as it was. The second one, it showed the first invasion with those cranes drilling the riverbeds. Oh, it pricks me even now. The third one, even more horrific, was with bulldozers and trucks on the riverbed. And the last picture was of the rising dam. More than development, it felt like the technology has stifled the nature. Little did they knew that those dams, which were important then, will carry huge environmental impact like the habitat fragmentation, flooding and destruction of surrounding habitat, greenhouse gases contributing to global warming, sediments build up behind the dam, downstream sediment erosion, and many others. The accelerated unsustainable timbering without a period of forest recovery soon made clear to some the need for restoration of degraded forest and planting new ones for the sake of nation's future. So with this self-realization started the saga of environmental laws, tribunal, landmark judgments, and so on. First in this series was the 1952 National Forest Policy, which ambitiously sought substantial extension of forest cover, thereby reducing land deterioration and protecting wildlife while sustaining resource production, especially for the rapidly growing forest industry sector. Meanwhile, civil society organizations like the Bombay Natural History Society were active in pushing environmental research and advocacy. As the population continued to rise, long-term ecological stresses on land quality and water supply meant reduced yields. In tube-well-dependent areas, groundwater aquifers were exhausted with ever deeper shafts needed. In canal-fed areas, land became unproductive due to salinization and waterlogging. Growing number of people began to recognize both the dangers of accelerating anthropogenic pollution and the Earth's environment must be considered as an integrated whole and not a fragmented country-wise thing. An approach marked by the UN's first conference on human environment in Stockholm in June 1972. The then Prime Minister Indira Gandhi also tried to impose her agenda on India, including about the environment. The US Smithsonian Institution report highlighted how much damage had already been done and the pressing need for more protections. Reflecting the growing awareness that the environment needed, her administration established India's National Committee on Environment Planning and Coordination as the apex policy setting body. Nonetheless, in 1972, her regime also passed the Breakthrough Wildlife Protection Act. Hunting and habitat loss had diminished the wild tiger population to fewer than 2,000, which led to the launch of internationally funded Project Tiger. Other charismatic endangered wildlife species with powerful cultural and ecological significance had their own projects now, like the Project Rhino, Project Elephant, Project Whale. Okay, so now these animals have started having project. Overall, the number of Indian natural parks and sanctuaries with these efforts doubled in the 1970s to over 100. Forest dwellers had historically arisen against government-sponsored interventions. After years of resistance by villagers in the Tehri Garhwal region, where heavy floods and deforestations had increasingly caused deep erosion and landslides, a landmark non-violent confrontation occurred in 1973. Peaceful protesters interposed themselves between loggers and those working for Sporting Goods Company. This Chipko movement became globally famous, which we all remember till now. Meanwhile, Indira Gandhi faced a range of challenges beyond even her control. Amid all these, in June 1975, Madam Gandhi suddenly declared a state of internal emergency. Among many other repercussions which India faced, one was the amendment of Constitution. With our concern here, the 42nd Amendment of 1976 required the government to endeavor to protect and improve the environment and safeguard the forest and wildlife of the country. Additionally, it became a fundamental duty of every citizen of India to protect and improve the natural environment, including forest, lake, rivers, and wildlife, and have compassion for living creatures. Her government also created the National Commission on Social Forestry in 1976, charged with increasing tree supplies massively for national advancement plus local community uses. Re-elected in 1985 with a large majority, Rajiv Gandhi created the Ministry of Environment and Forest and also appointed a National Wasteland Development Board. In 1986, Rajiv's government passed the Umbrella Environmental Protection Act. The 1987 Protocol, Montreal Protocol on substances that deplete the ozone layer was ratified by India, resulting into commercial banks being prohibited from financial investment with the ozone depleting technologies. So now ozone layer was a bigger problem. Since the late 20th century, pressure on India's natural resources have intensified along with conflicts over unequal access to them. And we still see them now for all the water boards and the state disputes. Simultaneously, India has been emerging as a rising global economy, political force, and nuclear armed power with not so known as consequent growing environmental impacts. The 1990s, the era of globalization, started with the coming of McDonaldization and Walmartization, making India an economy giant, but in the hindsight, leading to several impacts on environment. To name a few, I have them listed over here. Just increase in transportation of raw materials led to an increase in pollution levels in the environment. Increase in consumption of products in turn put stress on the environment. Vast barren lands have been encroached upon to pave way for new buildings. The vulnerability of ecosystem and societies reduced genetic diversities. Industrial waste dumped in oceans became a threat to marine life. Ozone layer depletion and then enhanced greenhouse effect. And pressure on the available land resources was something redundant. India's growing international and national commitments to the environmental protection resulted in a series of measures that accorded with Rio Convention and its Agenda 21. Narasimha Rao's government policy statement for abatement of pollution 1992 had the guiding principles of preventing pollution at its source. Using the best available technology, the polluters pay for all damage, and disseminating education and information for the public to encourage its participation in decision making. Engaging with other international movements in 1994, Rao's administration ratified the Convention on Biodiversity, the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change, and established the Ministry of New and Renewable Energy to advance alternative sources of much needed electricity. Even before the Rio Declaration, the Supreme Court had begun to apply the anticipatory precautionary and polluters pay principle. Likewise, in response to New Delhi's visibly unhealthy vehicular air pollution, the court directed the government to constitute an environmental pollution authority for the National Capital Region. To assist the judiciary in the rapidly growing number of environmental cases, the government created the National Environmental Tribunal 1995 and the National Environmental Appellate Authority in 1997. These bodies were part judicial, part technical, appointed panels empowered to consider civil cases about hazardous chemicals using the polluters pay principle of liability for all damage. You know why India needs to worry? There are plenty of reasons, but some of them are listed over here, such as the sea level rise, melting of glaciers, increase in precipitation, changes in weather patterns, changes in agricultural yield, impact on human health, threat to food security, increased flooding, internal displacement, changes in freshwater supply, species extinction at an ever faster rate, and disturbed natural ecosystem. So we know very well that why India needs to worry. And we have the solutions at our hand, but we still don't bother to work on those solutions. I would like to go back to the instance from where I started. The thought that a 4-year-old girl has not seen the beauty of nature scares me, and that only her textbooks will inform her the real colors. Isn't it intimidating? This is the time of introspection. What scenery do you want to leave for your younger ones? Do you want more malls or more trees? Because no aqua purifier or Kent machine can give fresh water and air. They will only be provided by those trees and those underground water supplies. By 2030, the government says 21 major cities will run out of water. Most of the big cities are already facing the wrath of pollution. If you still want to be unaware, that's completely your choice. But I'm selfish and I want you to be the same. If you're not selfish, do you ever consider that in 2019, 1.7 million people died due to air pollution? I don't want my loved ones to be among those 1.7 million or among those who wake up with asthma or other respiratory disorders searching for masks. With the current environmental situation, masks will become a permanent thing. And then these unaware citizens who avoid from talking now will talk about the brands of the mask and again refrain from talking the main issue. We are facing an unprecedented ecological crisis on all fronts. We should accept it now or we have to pay for that later. We have started paying for that. Need of the hour is a concerted effort from all stakeholders to realize the emergency and act accordingly. Sustainability cannot be an academic decision. It needs to be an on-ground practice. Till when we will have webinars for this? We have to be on ground. So I will end up saying that while human beings cannot survive without vibrant ecosystem, the truth is that biodiversity may heal and thrive without human beings. For not only do we not add value, we create problems. Do you know the theme for Biodiversity Day 2021? It was we are part of the solution for nature. What I feel that we should first find ways of ceasing to be a threat to the nature. Once that happens, there would be no need to look for the solutions. And as the last slide already said, we don't have planet B, so we cannot have plan B. The only plan A we have is to protect this environment and to pass it on to our future generation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Ananya, for this very informative presentation. Right from the Forest Acts by the British East India Company to the present times, I think, you covered each and every aspect, related to our environmental history. There are some questions that were posted by our listeners, but before we attend to those questions, let me bring to you all some of the very important aspects related to the very promising issue of the climate change. The issue that our environment is currently facing. So currently, the UN posted its IPCC report, and it said that we are currently 1 degree hotter than the pre-industrial times. And that's not an issue if we reach 1.5 degree or 2 degree mark, even by the end of this century, that is by 2100, then also we'll be fine. But what actually is alarming is that the speed at which we are warming our planet, the current speed at which we are warming our planet will be 1.5 degree hotter than the pre-industrial time by the year 2030. And if we keep going at the same speed, I fear that there will be no Mumbai, no Kolkata, no Tamil Nadu, no Goa, no Lakshadweep, no Andaman, no Maldives, and even there will be no London and no New York. So all the New York time lovers, you'll face a heartbreak by 2035. And another very important angle to this issue of climate change or the concentration or the increased concentration of the greenhouse gases in our environment or our increased global carbon dioxide footprint, whatever you call it, is that it is having a greater impact on the poorer section of the society. World Bank recently gave a data that the richest half of the world are responsible for 86% of the greenhouse gas emissions, but the worst affected are the rest 14%. And also it said that 130 million people will move into poverty by the next 10 years due to the increasing number of catastrophes that we all are noticing around us. Scientists at Stanford University have provided us with a very alarming data that currently Nigeria's economy is 29% smaller than what it would have been without the climate change. Brazil's is 25% and India's is 31%. So India's economy would have been 31% more, according to Stanford University, if the issue of climate change was, properly tackled with. There are many such alarming data provided by various global institutions, but it's now up to us and the government that how we should deal with this issue. governments surely need to make this issue of climate change an important aspect of their policy and collaborate not only internally, but I think globally and make it an important policy, make it an important part of their foreign policy to counter this issue because we all are in this together. So with this, I'll move to the question that were posted by our listeners. So the first is from Mr. Shubham Tiwari. He's asking that should we hold the West responsible for the current situation of our environment?
No, definitely not. West can give you modernization, but it's up to you that how you accept it and how you put forward to it in your country scenario. Like we are not the same now. We have to think of how we have to put that concept in our country. So West should not be responsible for all the mistakes.
Okay. Next question is from Mr. Ajay Gupta. He's saying that you talked about that how development has affected our environment. So should we stop development, and if not, then how will we promote the balanced development, which currently seems impossible?
Uh, for this question only, I think way back sustainable development concept was given out because we want development. Obviously, we cannot be the nomads who are searching for food and gathering and hunting. We want development, but at a sustainable rate because there are ways by which we can go forward with the help of environment and saving it. But we don't choose to. Why do we choose plastic bags over the jute bags? It's our personal choice. We are not choosing it. So we can have development with environmental benefits.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Ananya. Another question is from Ms. Samriddhi. She's asking that Scandinavian countries are way ahead than us when it comes to environment protection. So, what do you think might be the reason for this?
I guess it's all on the personal conscience. Even in India, if you see, there are few localities or places where people put efforts to give their best. Even in India, there are cleaner cities and all that thing. So before comparing to Scandinavian countries, we should compare among the humans' conscience. Like if you tend to keep your house clean, that means you want a cleaner environment, but you don't want the roads to be clean. So that's more not a country-based effort, but a personal effort, I guess.
Okay, Ms. Ananya, we'll take one last question. It is from Shruti Kumari. She's asking that India is a developing country and government has raised several awareness and policies related to how we can, protect our environment. So she's asking that what we can do on our part to implement these government policies.
I guess we are having plenty of government policies to in India for that matter. We are having government policies for everything. But if you introspect or intrigue, you will find that they are not implemented. So on our personal basis, if 77 of us sitting over here start doing sustainable practices, start using jute bags instead of plastic, start avoiding personal cars when we are going together, then I guess we'll give an effort to clean Delhi, and likewise whole of the India will be clean. So that's a very personal effort, I guess. All this answer related to a personal effort. Like if you want it to be clean, it will be clean. It's all about that.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Ananya, for this, very nice presentation and very informative question and answer round. So over to you, Mr. Ajay.
Thank you, Mr. Saurabh. And Ananya, you were amazing. The whatever I was, I had thought you had exactly were like that. I really like that. And one important thing here is this that I can see there are many people in the audience. They wanted to ask some questions. So, my dear friends, you can ask the question while she is presenting her talk. Like just after the talk, you cannot ask the question. So remember it for the next time. Uh, there is no doubt we will take your question in the coming and upcoming talks whenever you will be asking. So just move on. Let us move on. And now this is the time. Actually, this is the main time. So this is the time for one of the most galvanic and I would say enthralling moment, which falls at first week of the every month, where we, according to our tradition, announce Speaker of the Month award. Actually, so here are the speakers of last month. Miss Samriddhi Kanpal, who had spoken about over revisiting epics, Greek and Indian mythology. Then we had Yashi, who had spoken upon Who Are We. Then we had Shahid Ahmed, who had spoken upon Homo sapiens at the birth of language. And Shruti, Depression, a silent threat to the society. But there's a catch this month actually. We have decided to I would say, the facilitate two of the speakers this month. Why? The answer is simple but yet a bit difficult actually, because our jury has decided, seeing the competition and neck to neck, that that zeal of the speakers. So it was very difficult to decide one over another. But still, we have tried our best, and our jury has tried its best to choose one of them. So in that course, we will be facilitating the first speaker, or we will be facilitating the first, I would say, the certificate or award, you can say. It is the certificate for popular talk, and it goes to Miss, or Mr., what I would call Miss Shruti Kumari, who had spoken upon the depression, a silent threat to society. So now, Miss Shruti, if you're present here, you can have 1 or 2 minutes to present your views and to tell about your experience also. Miss Shruti, if you are here.
Uh, like, first of all, I'm speechless because I didn't have that thought that I would be like the speaker of the one. So thank you, thank you, thank you so much, the whole team of Sakshya. Thank you so much, Dr. Manish sir, and the whole team, the coordinators. My inspiration is also sitting here, Dr. Debahuti Brahmachari ma'am. So I would like to thank her as well. And the most, I would say, like, Ankit is the one who brought me here and who shared the thing and who forced me to present one of my presentation here. It's really amazing. I'm speechless. I can't say anything. It's like, thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Shruti. Your certificate for popular talk will be
Ajay, sorry for interruption. I think from your side, you are having some glitches.
Am I audible, sir, or I'm not?
Can you switch off your camera? So I think we are get your no.
Am I?
Yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Actually, there might be some connection too. Sorry, everybody. Right. So now this is the time for presenting our next award, that is the Speaker of the Month award, and it goes to Miss Samriddhi Kandpal from Uttaranchal University, Uttarakhand. Miss Samriddhi, if you're present here, then please have few words if you can.
Yeah, thank you so much. First of all, thank you all of you to for this for this award. And first of all, I would like to extend greetings of the day to every one of you. And this moment that I am currently in right now is totally an unexpected one, and I can't be grateful enough to the entire GSTS fraternity to have bestowed this title on upon me, and this experience and the fact that I have been a part of this journey with GSTS and Shamlal College in itself is actually once in a lifetime moment for me, and I'm not being exaggerative with my words. And I would also like to appreciate and extend congratulations to the speakers of September who were very diligent with their talk. And sincere thanks to Manish sir for believing in me. And I would also like to put forth a heartfelt thanks to the coordinators and the members of GSTS, as well as the JCC as well, who were always there with their effective and beneficial suggestions at every stage before my presentation was, on the preparatory stage. So their presence in the meetings organized before the talks actually proved to be of great help to me, and it helped to improve my talk and make it more scholarly, make it more presentable for the final day of the talk. So, and trust me when I say this, it was your faith and the valuable remarks that you all gave to me that actually kept me going. Also, I won't forget to mention and thank the Almighty and my parents for being a constant support throughout this endeavor, and their involvement and plus their blessings actually it certainly kept me going and will keep me going as well in the future as well. So I'm also looking forward to contribute the best of my capabilities to this platform. And also I would like to invite you all to be a part of this distinguished initiative, that I should say, because we want this family to extend and reach a much wider domain. So henceforth now I would just like to conclude my words. Thank you all so much for your wishes, for your warm wishes, and I am highly obliged with this, and I shall certainly relish this experience, and it will definitely hold a special place in my heart throughout the rest of my life. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Samriti. Thank you. Thanks a lot. And I would like to address the audience as well as the people there. I can see the names. They all are student, and I know a lot of them. So if you also want to be the speaker at the Graduate Scholar Talk series, the form and everything is in the chat box. You can just fill it. It's just a click away. You can just fill it, and our team will contact you within the 1 day. It is my guarantee to you guys. Okay, so let's begin with our program right now. So now I would like to call Miss Deepa Tiwari for giving a brief intro about the Journal of Continuity and Change, that it is our one of the journal that we produce every month. So Miss Deepa Tiwari, if you are in the audience, so can you please come and uh, talk about the journal, give a brief description about the journal.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ajay, for inviting me. Good evening, everyone. I am Deepa Tiwari, an editor of Journal of Continuity and Change, JCC magazine. I would like to start with a quote of Nelson Mandela. Education is the most changed by graduate.
I think, Ms. Deepa, hold on. I think you have some connectivity issue. Then I would say ki Anant, if
Yeah,
Anant
sure.
is here, then he can take over.
Per month. The issue.
Deepa, you have a connectivity issue.
I would like to start with a quote of Nelson Mandela. Education is the most powerful weapon which can you use to change the whole world. Thank you so much for inviting me. Good evening, everyone present here. I'm Anand Joshi, an editor of Journal of Continuity and Change, JCC magazine. Journal of Continuity and Change by Graduates is a monthly magazine, an initiative by Sakshi, the History Society of Shamnal College Evening. We will publish our magazine every Monday with a new theme dealing with social, political, or economic issues for the particular months. The next frontier, which means the next uncharted territory, in this issue, we have selected important events of September and grouped them under the pennon of UN Sustainable Development Goals, like Goal 3, Good Health and Well-being, Goal 4, Quality Education, and Goal 16, Peace, Justice, and Strong Institutions. मैं यहाँ पर उपस्थित आप सभी को हमारे मैगजीन जर्नल ऑफ कॉन्टिन्यूटी एंड चेंज के बाय ग्रेजुएट्स के 3rd एडिशन के प्रकाशन में आमंत्रित करता हूं। इस प्रकाशन के कार्यक्रम का नाम है एडिटर्स इनसाइट। यह प्रकाशन 5 अक्टूबर 2021 को समय 12 बजे किया जाएगा। यह एक ऐसा कार्यक्रम है जहां पर आप सभी को संपादक और मुख्य संपादक के बीच बातचीत से मैगजीन से संबंधित प्रश्नों के उत्तर प्राप्त कर इसके बारे में जानने का मौका मिलेगा। मैं आशा करता हूं कि आप सभी 5 अक्टूबर में के कार्यक्रम में अपनी उपस्थिति दर्ज कराएंगे। धन्यवाद।
Thank you, Mr. Anant. We will really would like to be the part of that program. So now moving ahead, now I would like to call Muskan Sharma. Muskan, if you are in the audience, she is the next speaker of the Sunday, and she'll be briefing about her topic, what she will be speaking in the next Sunday. So, Ms. Muskan. Muskan, if you are here, then please. I think Muskan is not in the audience. Okay, I'll be briefing in her topic. Actually, she will be talking about the diverse discrimination. Her topic is diverse discrimination, and she will be talking about the discriminations. Okay, Muskan, if you're here, then if you can speak, if your connectivity is okay, then please take this mic and just talk about your, the topic. I think there is some connection issue. Okay, her topic is diverse discrimination to be precise, and she will be talking about the discrimination at various levels. Either it is sports, at the land ownership, or I would say geopolitical. She will be covering various aspects of her talk. And I, from her side, invite you all to the next Sunday. Please come and listen her talk. She is one of the very brilliant student of Mata Sundari College, and we will like to have you all at that Sunday also. So thanks a lot. So now I would like to call Ms. Devahuti Brahmachari. Ma'am, please enlighten us by your talk and just tell how you're feeling and what is your views. Give us your views.
Thank you so much. I'll just quickly sum up for Ananya the feedback. I can just say that. So I'll quickly sum it up. First of all, the way you have spoken and you have divided your concept into the three segments that you were talking about, how environmental history can be looked upon. That was very, very interesting. I mean, I was hearing this for the first time. I can say I had brief knowledge about this. जिस तरीके से आपने इसको सेगमेंट्स में बांटा है एंड स्पेशली जिस तरीके से आपने इंडिपेंडेंस पीरियड पे फोकस करते हुए द एक्ट्स दैट यू टॉक अबाउट द वे द राज कम्स इन एंड यू नो द इंटायर कॉलोनाइजिंग का जो इनका आइडिया है इट इज साइमल्टेनियसली कॉलोनाइजिंग द इन्वायरमेंट एज वेल सो द इंटायर स्ट्रैटेजी बिल्डिंग की डेवलपमेंट के नाम पर किस तरीके से अपने पॉलिटिकल रूल को मजबूत करने के लिए हाउ दे वर टेकिंग एंड प्लंजिंग ऑन द इन्वायरमेंट एंड द वाइल्ड लाइफ by building in the railways that you said, the roadways and the communication, etc., etc. This is an excellent example that how the political discourse plays a very powerful role in shaping up the future of the country. And even if we talk about all these big, big policy and stakeholders and all the climate change conventions, etc., आज के date में जो सारा fashion word है sustainability and millennium development and sustainable development, ये सारी चीजें वही कागज पे रह जाएगी until and unless the implementation does not take place. So, you know, it looks very nice to read that we have signed on the SDG goals, but at the ground level, what is the reality when 150 species or more than that is getting threatened, when the wildlife is being threatened with the tigers and the rhinos dying every single day, single month, news reports में बस यही है, the way we are losing on our species. So, the way that you've discussed the pre-independence, the post-independence, and the entire journey in between, and how you picked up the example of the post-independence political rule with Nehru coming in and his idea of development, and how the post-independent development also connects to the exploitation of environmental threats is very, very important. So, the connection, because yes, I belong from the political science department, so automatically मेरा ध्यान थोड़ा बहुत वो political discourse और governance का जो aspect है, administration का जो aspect रहा है, उस पे automatically connect हो जाता है. But जो आपने decades discuss किए, that was excellent. Flora, fauna, the way you've substantiated in your PPT with the graphs that you've used, they were mind blowing. And let me start off with the fact that yes, when you started off your presentation with a personal note that how your sister felt, I think so वही emotion है जो हमें change लाने के लिए मजबूर कर सकता है. So plans and policies बहुत ही different चीजें हैं, but the moment we start thinking कि हमारे futures, in fact future भी नहीं, मैं तो कहूँगी कि हम ही पता नहीं आगे चल के नीला आसमान देखेंगे या बैंगनी या brown या काला, हमें ही सोचना पड़ेगा. So the way you said that your sister is you know, questioning the color, I can very well understand, because I also have a little baby at house, and you know that's the same thing she ends up seeing कि cartoon में तो इतना blue है, but मम्मी बाहर stars कहाँ है? That's what she keeps on asking me, that where are the stars? I would say I'm a little biased towards the COVID lockdown, because finally I could see stars and I could show my little baby that yes, there are something called as the twinkle twinkle little stars right up, because the skies were very clear the last lockdown. So yes, definitely globalization, the big words, McDonaldizations, industrialization, all these big, big words sound so fancy, sound so great, but what is happening to the human security concerns when we talk about climate? And I think so one of the members also pointed out a lot of the data is related to climate and the threat that is coming up day by day with the climate changes and the disasters. So it is extremely important that young thinkers, young researchers like you are pulling up their socks and, you know, are bringing in this topic that yes, you know, we need to put in our brains as the young generation into environmental research and advocacy. It is not just the people who are sitting there on the power benches, but it is us. Because काफी सारे क्वेश्चन आंसर्स में जब आपने बताया कि यू नो बाहर वेस्टर्न कंट्रीज रिस्पॉन्सिबल है या नहीं है, वहां तक जाना ही क्यों, पहले हम अपना देख लेते हैं. लेट्स स्टार्ट फ्रॉम आवर ओन गली, अपना ओन मोहल्ला, अपना ओन कॉलोनी. 10 रुपए का बिस्लरी पिया और वही बॉटल फेंका, वही नीचे गिर गया. सो दैट्स वेयर वी स्टार्ट ऑफ, है ना. वी आर द फ्रंट, यू कैन से रनर्स इन दिस. हम रेस में लाइन में सबसे पहले है. प्लास्टिक का पैकेट यूज करके फेंक देना, चिप्स का पैकेट खाया फेंक देना, fancy plastic bottles, branded bottles खरीदना. So when we talk about climate change, when we talk about disasters, when we talk about, you know, stakeholders क्या कर रहे हैं, सबसे important stakeholders तो हम खुद हैं. We are citizens. We are the ones who are dealing in this everyday life. This is our own country. This is our own earth. You know, when we say Mother Nature, Mother Earth, do we really feel for it? Are we really thinking about it? Are we thinking about all the species जो हम सोच रहे हैं? The wildlife that we're talking about when we talk about animals and the crimes that are happening against the poaching of tigers, etc. So aren't we the ones who should be the voice of these voiceless? Shouldn't we come up as community stakeholders? Shouldn't we walk the life? And so yes, the way you've described the data was excellent. Whatever I could gather, the graphs that you've used, it was a little unclear, but I hope you've mentioned the references at the end. That's a suggestion I would always add up to all the budding researchers here, that whenever you present, whenever you pick up data, always mention the references at the end, because this is on a public domain, it's on a public platform, it's getting recorded, it goes on YouTube. So this is the way you learn. When you go into proper research, these are the little steps that you should always keep in mind. कि इमेज कहाँ से लिया है, so image का credit या वीडियो का credit, जहाँ से भी आप quote करते हैं उसका credit, all of that should come in. So yes, I'll just sum it up then. I think so overall it was fabulous, excellent. जैसे मैंने आपको बोला था कि starting की मुझे topic सुन के ही लगा कि जब हम बात कर रहे हैं हिस्ट्री ऑफ फ्लोरा फौना की, जब हम वाइल्ड लाइफ को देख रहे हैं, जब हम इन्वायरमेंट को देख रहे हैं, तो हाउ आर यू एज यंग सिटीजन्स और हाउ आर यू एज द फ्यूचर्स जो सस्टेनेबिलिटी प्रोग्राम के बारे में लिख रहे हैं या अपने आंसर्स में डेवलपमेंट के बारे में लिख रहे हैं, कहाँ तक आप अपने आप को उसमें देखते हैं? दैट्स अ वेरी वेरी बिग क्वेश्चन. तो सिर्फ एक इन्वायरमेंट डे सेलिब्रेट करने से ही अगर हो जाता तो पता नहीं हम कहाँ ही होते. So it is more than celebrating Environment Day. It is more than celebrating posters. But Ananya, I should give you cheers, kudos to the way you picked up your language. Your speaking skills were very, very fine-tuned. And with the dedication that you spoke about, your timing, your slides, overall it was a fantastic job. But I hope the audience who is here takes away the points that you've given. That's the main idea of the presentation. That when a researcher is presenting, I hope this platform is giving you something when you go back after this session to think about कि हाँ मैं भी कुछ सोच के कुछ कर सकती हूँ या कर सकता हूँ. So lastly, the way this entire platform has added up into the confidence, I can see the way the Seeker of the Month was saying, she was so correct by saying, it is going to be a lifelong memory for her. Absolutely. I mean, मुझे तो खुद दुख हो रहा है कि हमारे ग्रेजुएशन के टाइम में और हमारे मास्टर्स में काश हमें ऐसा प्लेटफॉर्म मिल चुका होता. तो हम बड़ा लेट बोल रहे हैं, अब तो हम बड़बड़ कर ही रहे हैं एज लेक्चरर्स, बट शायद तब हम जो कॉन्फिडेंस से बोलते हैं एंड द बूस्ट दैट यू गेट कि आप इतने बड़े पब्लिक प्लेटफॉर्म में आप बोल रहे हैं, पीपल आर लिसनिंग टू यू, ओह इट्स फैबुलस, इट्स फैंटास्टिक. एंड आई गेस मनीष सर एंड आई कैन फील दैट बिकॉज हमारा तो काम ही यही है सुबह से शाम बोलना. सो आई kudos to your teacher, to your faculty members who trained you, and the confidence of the committee. I would say it's excellent. The way I was listening in the initial 10 minutes, जैसे सर सबकी serial order में class ले रहे थे, backup, image, recording, X, Y, Z. I can feel that because yes, I'm also the NCC in charge of my college. So हमारा भी पूरा time ऐसे ही सबके पीछे चला जाता है लग के. So this is the way you've been shaped up. This is the way, this will, once you work out, once you go ahead in your life, these platforms build up your personality. So, let's have a virtual 3 cheers. Let's have a big clap to this forum. Let's have a big clap to all the speakers who've been a part of this great initiative, and how excellent it is that you also have a journal coming in. I mean, I don't have any words, but yes, all the very best. And it was fabulous, fantastic to hear a student present, a researcher present, instead of a faculty member or somebody. So yes, and I'll really take away a lot of good things, and थोड़ा बहुत मैं ये ideas चुरा के शायद कुछ implement करूँ तो मैं पहले से ही apologize करूँ. So a big thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. It meant a lot, ma'am. Really, thank you for your beautiful insight. It is always as expected from a teacher, to give some feedbacks, and ma'am, your inputs really are highly appreciated as well. Thank you, ma'am. And you have said right that everything matters and each and everything puts to a climate change. I would like to present a short data just for a second. After the globalization, how we have shaped enormously our fooding habits. For making 1 kg of bread, we need 1,609 liters of water. For making 1 kg of meat, we need 20,000 liters of water. For making 1 kg of chocolate even, we need 17,000 liters of water. And for making 1 liter of Bisleri, we need additional 3 liters of water. So everything matters. Each and everything matters. It is not the one particular thing or Britishers or some particular country who had done so. It is all. It is us. That is. So thank you. And now moving at the end of our program, I would like to call Miss Preeti to present.
Can I just, Ajay, just add Ajay, can I just
Yes,
add
ma'am. Fine.
one point to it? The way, just one feedback, probably for the other researchers, that the way you gave these examples are so scary when you think about it. Maybe there are students who can also look into the perspective of environment, its impact on various communities and various genders. That is the biggest threat when it comes to human security threats in today's discussion of climate change and disaster and human security. कि environment का specific communities से कितना बड़ा threat है. There are communities who will just go out of into extinction because of environmental disasters. And not forgetting, women are the worst bearers when it comes to climate disasters. So, it's just a suggestion the future researchers can actually look up into. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thanks a lot. And now, moving at the end of the program, I would like to call Miss Preeti to give vote of thanks.
There can be no doubt that the existing flora and fauna is but the last term of a long series of equally numerous contemporary species, which have succeeded one another by the slow and gradual substitution of species in the vast interval of time which has elapsed between the deposition of the earliest fossiliferous strata and the present day, said by Thomas Henry Huxley. With this quote, a very warm good evening to our most valued guests, worthy teachers, and most beloved students. Last but not least, all gathered over here. This is Preeti, student of BA program 3rd year and secretary of Sakshi Society of Shamral College Evening. It's my privilege to have been asked to propose a vote of thanks on 34th session of GSTS. As you may have seen the hard work done by the History Department Sakshi in organizing this event. This department has achieved new heights in the session of 2016-17 under the convenership of Dr. D.N. Singh sir and under the guidance of Dr. Pramod Kumar sir, Dr. Manish Karma sir, Dr. Seema Meena ma'am, and Mr. Ajay Kumar sir. This was the first time when department formed the History Society Sakshi. Sakshi has since then conducted various activities ranging from educational trips to seminars and webinars. At present, Sakshi conducts graduate scholar talk series for young minds. Sakshi is also publishing a magazine, Journal of Continuity and Change, JCC, by graduates, which takes you on a journey to the past to look at the present and visualize the future. First and foremost, I would like to thank our guest of honor, Dr. Vibhuti ma'am, who gave her vital time from her busy schedule and attend the event today. Thank you so much, ma'am, for your kind and adorning words. Your words will always in our minds. Now, I would like to expressing my gratitude to Dr. D.N. Singh sir for gracing us in the event. Now, I would like to express my gratitude to all the respected teachers for joining and gracing us with their presence in the program. Special thanks to Dr. Jaya Kakkar ma'am, Dr. Krishna ma'am, Dr. Simi Mehta ma'am, and Dr. Daljit ma'am and Dr. Uma ma'am. I wholeheartedly thanks to our star of the day, today's speaker, Miss Ananya, for giving such a magnificent talk on the topic, the web of Indian flora and fauna. Thank you so much, Miss Ananya. You were truly remarkable. I would also thanks to all the Sakshi, GSTS and JCC members who worked hard to conduct the event successfully. Finally, I wish to thank all the students for joining us today. I would like